Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Busy Girl Likes to Eat, in which I, Busy Girl, eat my way through the internet one recipe at a time. If you are joining us for the very first time, I go through recipes on the internet and see if they can actually be made in an average kitchen and if they will also be delicious. So today, I'm pretty excited. We are going to make sausage, kale, and spaghetti squash boats. I'm excited for two reasons. Like, one, I've never actually cooked a spaghetti squash. I have no idea how that's gonna work. But I've had spaghetti squash like a bunch of times in restaurants. So, can I bring the restaurant into my house? We'll see. And this recipe is from paleogrubs.com. Now let's be clear, I am not paleo, but the picture of this looked really yummy. So I was like, yeah, let's do that. I get wooed by photos. Doesn't everybody? We're a visual culture, it's fine. One medium spaghetti squash. I don't know if this qualifies as medium. I'm just gonna hope this is medium. And so then it's 1.5 pounds of chicken sausage. Okay, so let me tell you a story. Don't buy the one that says already cooked. Because I didn't know that the first time I did that. Also, this isn't chicken sausage, because the problem is that the one that they had, because I like hot Italian sausage, and doesn't mean it's super spicy. I just like the spice. I don't like sweet sausage, because I don't like to mix my sugar with my savory. I'm like a flavor segregationist. It's terrible. And the one that was actually the one that I needed, that was actually raw, uncooked, was sweet. And I was like, screw all that. There's a hot Italian sausage. I'm gonna get that. Long explanation for why I'm varying from the recipe, but also means if this is disgusting, my fault. Yellow onion, they're back. My pre-cut onions, they're my favorite thing in the world. And my second favorite thing is my minced garlic. It's just very dear. We're gonna try to drizzle again. This is 3 tablespoons of olive oil plus more for drizzling. We're gonna experiment with drizzling one more time. Salt and pepper, and then, so 2 things that I completely skipped. Okay, 2 teaspoons of pine nuts. We've discussed this before. How much I hate in my heart things that are 2 teaspoons of stuff I'm never gonna use again. Probably will add crunch and texture to the recipe, but I also don't need it. Also, they're stupid expensive. A bag of them was $8. And then another one of 2 teaspoons of fresh parsley. Real question. Can you tell me what parsley tastes like? First, we're gonna start with this medium spaghetti squash. I have no idea how to do anything with this. Oh, there's a sticker on here. There's a sticker. Well, I knew the sticker was on here, but I got way too excited about that sticker. I knew the whole time the stupid sticker was on here. Sticker says, wash and cut half lengthwise. Remove seeds and the string. I'm confused. Okay, well, what we have is the sticker. We're gonna put that right here. We have the instructions. And if all else fails, we're gonna call my homegirl Google. You know I love her. Our squash is out of the microwave. It is warm, which is to be expected. It's kind of nice though. It just feels soothing. It also kind of looks like an egg on Game of Thrones. It's a dragon egg, but it's hot on the bottom. And this needs to be prepped, but apparently part of the prep is putting it in the stove. So we're gonna half cook, half prep, I guess, because cooking is part of the prep. Okay, so it says use a sharp knife. I hope this is one works. I'm just gonna start here. Someone who knows how to use knives is gonna be like, hey, that's not how you use a knife, and you're gonna cut yourself. Is it poking through the end? Oh, okay, it's poking through the end. Just work with me, guys. It's the first time I've done this. I typically get spaghetti squashes from a restaurant. Busy Girl hates stitches. Oh, that's not in half. Oh, crap. What I should have done was looked at a YouTube tutorial on how the hell to cut this thing. Ooh. Oh, it's open. Oh. Now we're gonna take the seedy seeds out. Okay, so now I'm actually gonna consult Google because it's spaghetti squash, and so part of it is supposed to have stringy things, and I don't wanna get rid of the part that's stringy. I know I'm at least supposed to take the seeds out, right? So it's seedy. So let me at least get the seeds. It's just like a pumpkin. If you've ever taken it out, it's just like a pumpkin. Oh wait, so gourds do this. Okay. They're all in the same little family. So We've got all the squash gut out. So when it's done, it's supposed to look like this. If you've ever like carved a pumpkin and got like the pumpkin guts up, very similar, like the part where it's like basically like slimy, hairy, like I was showing you earlier, all of that has to come out. The thick white parts are still here instead of those like dark yellow parts that you were seeing earlier. All right, so here's the thing. I'm gonna just do my drizzle hustle right now. I'm calling it drizzle hustle. So the last time I did this, prior episode, I kind of did a drench situation. I still don't have a drizzler because I don't, but I'm just gonna put some on a spoon and I'm gonna feel like this is drizzling. Pepper is my favorite. I'm gonna grind it everywhere. I'm being fairly liberal with the salt because this is just big. We are tossing this in the stove for 45 to 50 minutes and we'll know when it's done if we can poke it with a fork easily. So it's almost like a cake. This is gonna get gnarly. I've done this before. I don't do this often because of the challenge. I don't know if this is the best knife to use for this, but it's the one I'm gonna use. Would that I could just squeeze them out. I really wish that like I could just like cut like that much, maybe here. Let's see. Maybe just a little bit more. I'm experimenting right now. And just be like, squeeze. Nope, it didn't work. It's so gross, guys. Like, it just looks, you know what it looks like. There's like no easy way to do this. You know what, it's meat. I'm just gonna put it in the fridge because at some point we're gonna play with it. I just don't know when. You know how much I love when they cut my veggies for me. It said a bunch of kale. I bought kale in a bag. I'm fairly certain that whatever's in the bag is more than a bunch of kale. Half a bag feels about right. We'll figure it if I'm wrong later. Now, I bet you think this is something that's gonna make me angry. Look at how much kale I have left over. But, and also one of the things about this recipe that wasn't a problem is I like to make smoothies and I put kale in my smoothies. You know, like there's always that person in your office who's like carrying around a cup of like green and brown disgust, like what the hell is that? And they're telling you how delicious it is and how good it is to start your morning with vegetables. That's me. There we go. All right, so that's the onion. We are adding the garlic. I use like really huge teaspoons because more garlic is always better than less garlic. So we're just gonna hang out with these guys for a little bit. So like this thing says like 4 to 5 minutes for the onion. For as long as I've been alive, cooking fresh onions and pre-cut onions, it never, ever is done in the time that they tell you. Never happens, like ever. It's always like, oh, it'll be 4 to 5 minutes and your onion is still like hard and crispy and it's like, wait, or it's like, oh, until the onion starts to brown, 10 minutes later the onion's still like white and fancy. So, I mean, I've got my eye on the clock for the next 4 to 5 minutes, but I don't trust it. Put some onions and some garlic together, smell it. Be a happier person. I feel like the only thing that would make it better is if we added butter. Garlic and onion smells so good when it's cooking, like so good, right? But like the smell of it on a person's breath is so bad. So is there like a correlation, like is there an inverse relationship between like stink of your of the breath to scent while it's cooking? Like are there, like, do they do this? I don't know. I'm not gonna keep messing with this because it's gonna cook while that's in there. So, you can get chunks apart pretty easily. That's not an issue. But like getting it crumbly is like an exercise in like upper body strength. Well, not upper body, just repetitive upper body motion because it doesn't want to crumble. It smells super good. Like I'm excited to eat it. It's just, this is why people eat out actually, because they're like, I'm excited to eat it, but making it is annoying. So part of this is like kind of like working and I'm pleased with myself, but now I have to go back to the part that's already kind of working and mess with it because it wants to re-stick together. It's like, friend, come close to me. Now, a shortcut for this though, if you didn't want to do all this, Because if we had used ground beef, we'd be done. It's probably just be ground beef or ground turkey. Now, if you take the shortcut and use like ground beef and ground chicken, which is totally acceptable, you would have to like add more spice because sausage is made with spices. So that's just a consideration you would make if you were looking for a way to busy this up. I think we're good here. Moving on to the next step. I'm gonna insert a step here. I'm gonna insert a step because we put in 3 tablespoons of olive oil, right? And like the sausage has its own oil that cooks off. I'm gonna dump the oil before I add the kale. I don't like it when I can taste the oil on my food. I don't like it when I can taste that like filminess. And it's not like you really need the kale to cook in the oil. I'm just gonna get most of the oil off. Most of it that's gonna come off is really gonna be all that olive oil that we added. Again, personal preference. Do what you want, you're an adult. Okay. All right. This is why I got this. Okay. This used to happen to me for years and will probably happen to me again, where you're putting a bunch of, I was like, use a skillet. But typically, let's compare. Here's the difference. You see the wall here? Like, even though this is a pretty large skillet, this is an overly large skillet, because that's just how I shop. This is a saute pan, right? Which is not a skillet, but it's got high walls. And when I didn't have a saute pan, I used to just use a large pot. Look at this, all this kale in here. Things are gonna go flying everywhere. No one needs that. So if you don't have a saute pan, just use a large pot, would be my recommendation so that things don't go flying off the side of your skillet. Now, there might be some culinary wizards in the world who are like, oh, it matters because blah, 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 blah. Like, the largest thing that matters about like pots and pans and like why a good set will run you a bit of money is because of the way that it cooks. So like, I love this set. I spent a pretty penny on it, but it does a lot more even cooking versus like kind of getting, and it's better at like regulating its own temperature. Like if you get like a cheaper pot, which I've definitely owned, let's be real. Actually, I still have some cheaper ones in there. You'll see where there's some like variances in how the heat disperses. So like there'll be a heat spot on one side versus like another. So that's like really, it's really what you're paying for. I mean, I'm a fan of like, instead of spending $500 like on like a whole set, is like buying one good piece at a time. So like, if you have a skillet that's like on the outs that like you bought when you were 19 and you know, you're now like, hey, I want nicer cookware, like just wait until there's a sale and then replace the skillet. Just replace it like one thing at a time. You don't have to go like into Sur La Table and be like, hey, here's $700. No. You can work your way up to nicer cookware, which is what I have done. It's also how I need to replace my baking sheet, this raggedy baking sheet it's so wretched. And I need to find my way into a store. As soon as I get an email coupon, I'm gonna buy a new one. You'll know when it happened because I won't even mention it on the show. You'll be like, hey, that's a cooking sheet or a baking sheet that doesn't have aluminum foil all over it. That's how you'll know. Just cooking this until the kale is wilted. Kale looks pretty wilted. Here, it doesn't take too much to cook kale. So we're gonna turn that off. And because I'm curious, I'm gonna taste it. So here it says remove from heat and set aside. So what I'm gonna do, and here's why. What happens is even after you're done cooking it, it's gonna continue to cook. The burner doesn't like immediately shut down, like gas or electric. Like the burner is still hot. When you're done cooking, just pull it off, put it onto a cool burner so you don't continue to cook it and overcook things. Not an issue for sausage. Speaking of overcooked, let's get the squash out of here. So we've pulled these out of the stove. We waited for them to cool. It's still kind of hot. Actually, I have this paper towel here to like guard me if my fingers can't take it. Now we're gonna do the fun part. We're gonna spaghetti the squash. I feel like if it's supposed to be spaghettied. Oh, this is so easy. Oh my gosh, I did not think. I really didn't think this was gonna be easy. I thought this was gonna be like super challenging, but oh my gosh, it's a spaghetti squash. It's kind of beautiful. It's a little like, it looks like angel hair pasta. The recipe is called spaghetti squash boats, so I guess I just get most of this out of here. and if not all of it, because actually like now I really want to eat it because I'm pretty sure it's gonna be good. So that's one. Hollowed out bowl. Leave that over there. You know what, there's actually a really rich and wonderful reward, right? You remember cutting it in half? You remember that was like a difficult pain in the tuchus? I don't even want a Google tutorial on this because it's so easy. What we are doing now is we are transferring the strands to the skillet. You know what I could have done? I could have just did this over the skillet. Unnecessary, dirty bowl. Briefly, doing a pretty boring part, I just put the spaghetti squash innards, whatever the real world is for that, put it into the skillet for just a few minutes just to warm everything up together, and then put everything, like spooned it into a bowl. What I kind of like about this is that it's kind of like no dishes. So it looks pretty good. Let's see if it tastes pretty good. I'm super pleased. This was super good. And what I like about this is that it's really like all vegetable, right? I mean, spaghetti squash is the vegetable, it's kale, then it's just the sausage that's in there. This actually reminds me of something that's really good for people who are like, I don't eat vegetables, which I don't really understand people who are adults who are like, I don't eat vegetables, but hey, they exist. Maybe they're your friends. Spaghetti squash doesn't actually taste to have that like vegetable feeling. It's almost like eating pasta. All right, so as we assess this on Busy Girl's 3 criteria. 1, can you make it in an average apartment kitchen? Yes, I didn't need any like special tools or equipment or anything to make this happen. So yay, it wins on that. 2, can you busy it up at all? Unfortunately, no, you can't really, just because if you're going to use sausage, you have to use the casings, or you have to remove the casings. You just need to take that time, unless somehow where you live, you can find it already ground. But you need the time for the spaghetti squash. You need to remove the hard ends on the kale. So it's not really something that I feel like you could whip up like in 30 minutes, probably if you have more of an hour. So it does miss on criteria number 2, if we can busy it up, because you know I love to busy everything up. And number 3, is it delicious? It's so good. It's so good. Although I will give you a heads up on one thing. It's that part of the reason it's so good is the sausage like that I used, because if you think about it, like the squash itself has its own flavor, but it's light. The kale itself has its own flavor, but it's light. And so the what's really gonna overpower it is the sausage. So just think about that as you pick the sausage that you're gonna use, or if you decide to use like a ground beef or a ground turkey, think about how you're gonna season that, because that's gonna be the most flavorful thing like in there. So just think about that. The other thing is just kind of like the Busy Girl asterisk is, does this qualify as leftovers? Unfortunately, as constructed, it doesn't, because like I had 1 squash, I cut it in half, I put all the food in 1. So this is actually kind of a meal for 2. What I would do next time if I wanted to use it as leftovers is maybe get smaller squashes and then use that, and then like use those small squashes in the bowl, or totally skip this part entirely and just leave the mixture in a pan and just like make bowls of it. That's actually probably the quicker and easier way to do it. So that's how this goes. If you want to try out the recipe, the link is in the description. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at BusyGirlLTE. I enjoyed this. I hope that you enjoyed joining me today, and we'll see you next time.